Hey folks, welcome back. I'm David and we're here in my shop where I build E-War guitars. Well, this is going to be episode number 8 of the tutorial series on how to build an electric guitar, where we're building this guy right here. These two pieces right here are going to become a guitar before you know it. And in this one, we're working back in this body again, and we're taking it from just the two cutout body parts, the top and the back, and we're turning it into an actual guitar body. We're going to chamber it, do some shielding paint, get these control cavities worked out, and all that type of thing. And we had something very interesting happen in the very beginning of this video when I pulled this thing out of the hot box. So why don't you check it out and see what we did to fix it. Anyway, let's get rolling with the video. So, I'm getting ready to do this video, and I just finished up my neck blank this morning, and I went to put it in the hot box over there and get my body parts out because it's time to work on the body again. And I found something very unusual. I pulled this guy out of the hot box, and that joint opened up on me, that seam. I'm going to try to zoom in and see if you could see that. That glue joint opened right up. This thing warped like so, about 1/8 of an inch, and that glue joint opened up. I've never had that happen before, and I'm not really sure how it happened. Let me explain. So this is the Honduran part of the Honduran mahogany part of the body, and here's the walnut part. I took these two slats and I put them in between these two boards, and I clamped the four corners, wanting to hold everything flat and hold it together while it's sitting in the hot box for about a week. And I've done it before and I've never had a problem. But this time I pulled it out and this guy is split right down the middle. And like I said, if I flip it over here, I can rock it back and forth. You can see that thing, it's got a pretty good little bow in it. So I'm not really sure what happened, but I'm gonna have to fix it. And that's what I'm about to do. But let me explain what I'm thinking, and maybe some of y'all can give me some advice. So I've got a hot box. I call it a hot box. It's simply a plywood box. I have foam insulation inside of it. I've got a heat lamp in there, and I've got a dehumidifier in there too, a small one. And the heat lamp runs, I got it set to come on and off at 122 degrees. And the dehumidifier basically just runs, although there's a humidistat in there, and I've got it set pretty low. Anyway, and every time I work on a piece of wood, you know, when you cut wood up, it tends to move because the grains are no longer have tension on it like it had when it was a full tree or whatever. And so when I cut up things or I glue up things, I put it in the hot box for a few days to kind of stabilize it, let everything calm down, and then I could work on it some more. And I don't know if it over dried it. I don't know if clamping these two guys, I thought that was a good idea, clamping them together. I thought clamping them together might be a good idea. It just kind of holds, it basically would hold the thinner piece, this guy, against the thicker piece, that guy, and it would kind of help stabilize or whatever. Just like when you're drying lumber, you put slats in there and you put weight on top to keep it stable. Anyway, I'm not really sure what happened. If you watch the video where I made these parts, you know, I laminated this piece on the back at the same time I glued this joint right here. And I don't know if that was too much moisture that went in there and it just kind of came out and it caused this to happen. I'm not sure. But also checked I checked the dryness of this wood here, and it's actually good. I mean, that is 6% right there, 4%. 4%. So it's very dry, but it's not, I wouldn't call that too dry. I don't think it dried out and did that. But anyway, so what I got to do, I got to fix this guy before we move on. So I'm going to very carefully try to take my knife and knife through this veneer in the back, put it on back on my shooting board, clean up this joint and glue it back together. Luckily, this has not been cut down to the final shape. So I've got a pretty good bit of room. I have almost 1/8 of an inch on either side to fix. So anyway, not sure what happened. If you got any thoughts, how about you put it in the comments and help me out? And if I can figure it out, I'll let you know later. But anyway, let me get set up over here and we're gonna get this thing fixed and re-glued up and then move on with working on this body. So that veneer I'm cutting is about a 1/16 of an inch thick, and I'm cutting right on the glue joint too, so that took a little bit of doing. I kind of shortened up the video for you, but I cut on it for a little while. And I finally got through. Most amazing thing to me is that thing broke on a glue joint. I just can't get over that. That looks to me like that thing broke on the glue joint, on the glue. There is glue. I was half expecting to see a thin layer of wood on one side or the other, but that is glue. I'll be darned. I have no earthly idea. But I think we can fix it. So I went back and forth a little while on both pieces. Just trimmed it up. That shooting board and a good sharp bench plane makes all the difference in the world. But it went back together just as nice as the first time around too. Here I'm just gluing it back up. And incidentally, once I cut that and shaved down the edges and everything, it came out just flat as could be. I still don't understand that, but it got fixed and it got fixed good, so I'm happy. So okay, that looks good again. I'm pretty pleased with that. Looks nice. I'll just hit it with my scraper here. Strange thing. Hope that never happens again. I'm going to clean off some of this glue. So now we're just truing them back up in the drum sander, which is something you have to do every time you take it out of the hot box, which the intention of that is to make it move so it doesn't move later on. Okay, so we're good. We got our walnut glued back together. Came out just beautiful. I'm thrilled to death. We got it fixed without having to start all over again. And we've also taken both these guys and we've run them through the drum sander and got them perfectly flat and got them to the thickness we're looking for. You know, when it goes in that hot box and you go to stabilize it, these things will bend up a little bit. As you know, this one bent up and actually cracked. And this one bowed up a pretty good bit, but we started extra thick on this and we've sanded it down now to where we're perfectly flat on both sides, and we've got the 1 1/8 inch thickness on the Honduran mahogany part, and we've got the 3/4 on the walnut part, which is what we were after. So next stage we're going to do is we're going to get going. We're going to chamber the body on the Honduran mahogany, as well as we're going to cut the control cavities for both the switch and the volumes and tones. And we're going to cut the control cavity cover recess for that too. And this is the template we're going to go ahead and use to chamber out the body. So anyway, I'm going to get set up and do that, but I thought something interesting. I thought it'd be cool before we did that to let's go ahead and check the weight we're starting with now. Then after we're done chambering and contouring the top and carving it and everything, we'll check the weight again and we'll see what it winds up being. We'll see how much we wound up taking off of it. So let me turn this guy on. Okay, let's see what we got here. Okay, 5 pounds and 14 ounces. That's where we're at now, and that's a bit heavy. We'd wind up with a really heavy guitar if we kept it like that. So we're going to go ahead and take some weight out of this thing and get rolling with that right now. So the first thing I'm starting with is I'm cutting the two inner parts of the control cavities, which are going to go all the way through the body. So I'm going to start with that. Just going through the normal process. You drill away to get out the bulk of the material. And once that's done, then I'll set it up on the router and use a flush trim bit to route out the remainder. You see I've got my big base on that router now. I swapped out the base, and you'll see in a minute why I'm doing that. Now that particular bit I have is a little bit too short to make it all the way through the template and the body, so I take off the template when I'm part way through and then run the router bit on the hole that was created already with the template to finish it off. Now that's a half template I make for doing the control cavity recess, and I just line that up on the center line of the body and it hits me perfect. And then I use the actual control cavity cover to set the depth of the router, as you just saw right then. Just run it through and it came out really nice. Flushed up beautifully. And I think the grain's going to line up on that good too. Had a little mishap here. You'll see in a second. That's a 1.5 inch bit I was using for hogging out the majority of that material. And my thing got a little bit close. That grabbed onto the wire out of that thing and just wrapped it around that deal. I probably should have anchored that down to something. Shouldn't have left it like that. So I had a little untangling to do. That was a bit of a mess. But I got it off. It turned out all right in the end. Had to use my nippers to cut that wire. Luckily the thing didn't come around and whack me in the eye or something too. And luckily it didn't tear off too much so I couldn't still use the thing. As you can see now, I got smart and I put a clamp on it to hold it out of the way. Okay, so this guy is ready for the next step. Now that I've gotten rid of the bulk of the material, I'm going to use my router and this bit right here. That's a 3/4 inch bowl bit, and it's got a top bearing, I guess you'd call that. I'm going to use this template right here that we made up for that to route this out. Now I'm going to go 2 different depths in here. The main part of this route, I want to leave about a 1/4 inch of material on the back of the guitar. But right here, right around my control cavity, I'm going to leave this space a little bit thicker. So I'm going to make sure that I have at least a 1/4 inch here. So when I put my control cavity on, I've got a little thickness to put a screws, or I'll probably actually use magnets to hold this thing on. So anyway, so I'm going to first set it to the depth where it's going to leave me about a 1/4 inch on this lip, and route just directly around. Well, I'll route the whole thing to get it cut down that far. Then I'll reset it to a depth where I leave about a 1/4 inch on the back. But anyway, I'm going to get that bit in that router right now, get set up and get rolling with this. So I don't know if any of you that are watching this watched the first few videos in the series. When I was actually making the templates for this thing, I mentioned in there that there was another one I thought I had to make, but I couldn't think of what it was. Well, this was it right here. I forgot, and I just made that, just prior to me using it here on this body. And but the video was getting too long, so I didn't put all that in there. But anyway, now you can see why I have that bigger router base on there. Because when you router across these big open areas like that, if that router dips in, 1, it could be dangerous, and 2, it could cause some damage to the thing you're working on too. So there we go. Nice. So we've got round about a 1/4 inch left here, and probably, considering the lip, we've got probably at least a 1/4 inch here, maybe just a little bit more. And I also left a little meat on up here for other control cavity cover over the switch. So anyway, so that looks cool. So the last couple things we got to do, we now have to route a channel from each of the pickups, which are these lines right here, and also the bridge post too, so we can get our ground in for the bridge post. So I'm going to route 1, 2, 3, but I'm going to use my 1/2 inch, the flat bottom template bit right here. We're going to use that for that. We're just going to zip it right there, just maybe a 1/4 inch deep or something. And then this will be ready for a little shielding paint in the control cavity. I just freehand these couple of cuts because, you know, it doesn't matter if they're perfectly straight or anything. Freehanding works good. Okay, so that chambering is done. A couple little things I wanted to point out that I don't think I said before was, now I've tried to maintain about 3/4 of an inch around the perimeter of most of this guitar, with the exception of this area right here. Now, that's going to be the spot that is going to get carved in from the back. That's going to be the belly carve. And I do pretty, you know, I go pretty deep with my belly carve, and I try to bring it up here pretty wide. So I make sure I leave some extra meat on there, because boy, the last thing you want to do is get to the spot with this body where you're cutting the belly carve in there and you actually cut into the back. Because remember, that back's only about a 1/4 inch thick. And the other thing is down here at the bottom, I thickened it up at the bottom too, because this is where our strap button is going to get screwed into. And I wanted plenty enough meat around that to support that screw when it goes in the hole. So I leave those two areas a little bit thick. And of course, I already mentioned that I left it thick here around the control cavities to where I could put my magnets or screws in there. So anyway, so the next step we got to do is we're going to do some shielding paint. And this stuff, I haven't used it in a couple of months, but look at the glob. That's metal filings at the bottom of that stuff. So you got to really make sure you mix this up good, because it's those metal filings that actually give it its shielding properties. So I'm going to mix it up really well. Now, I happen to like the look of copper tape. And if I was doing a simple, just a cavity here, that I could access it from this side here when the guitar is built and it's got basically a wall all the way around it, I like using that because it looks really cool. But honestly, it does absolutely no better than this shielding paint right here. And I'm going to shield not only the entire carved out area here, I'm also going to use my template and mark the back of the top. So this is our walnut top. I'm going to mark this out, and I'm going to shield all this area in here too. So that entire cavity, wherever we have any electronics running, is going to be shielded. So that is what we're about to do. And I just use a simple little foam brush like this, and I got a couple little artist brushes too if I need you to get into some spots, because I don't want to get any shielding paint up here where the glue is going to be. Well, getting a little better, still clumped up. By the way, that's the shielding paint. I get it from StewMac. And I'll show you after we get all the paint on there. I'll probably do 2 or 3 coats. And I will show you with my multimeter that we're going to have, it's going to be conductive throughout these parts. So, which is what you want to look for. 1 coat may not be enough, so I'll probably do 2 and then check it. And if I need to do a 3rd, I'll do a 3rd. That's getting better. Okay, so I've got 2 good coats on these guys here. And now I'm going to check the connectivity. So I've got that set on 2000 ohms. And I'm getting readings everywhere. Okay, that looks good. And if you notice, I tried to give it just a little bit of overlap on the edges, and I went a little past the line here too, hoping that this will touch with that and we'll have a complete Faraday cage. Or at least when I do the back side of the control cover, we will. Anyway, so that looks good. Okay, so I'm getting ready to glue this walnut top onto the body. Everything's ready now, and what I want to do, I want to make absolutely sure that my center lines line up. So what I like to do, rather than trying to mess with it when the glue's on there, I like to mark out my pickups, and I'll drill 2 screws in, 2 1.25 inch screws, right down in the middle of the pickup pockets. And I'll clamp these guys together. Well, I'll clamp them together first in perfect alignment. Then I'll drill in 2 screws into the pickup pockets, take them out, put the glue on. Then I'll be able to put the screws back in, and I'll be relatively certain that the alignment will be good. So that is what we're going to do. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to check this weight of this now. Well, we've still got to carve the top, and we'll be taking some more weight out of it then. But I thought it'd be kind of fun to check it and see where we're at. Tiny little buggers, my battery dead. There we go. 0 pounds. 4 pounds, 12 ounces. So we took off 1 pound and 2 ounces. So we're definitely heading in the right direction. That's cool. 4 pounds, 12 ounces. Those 2 screws I put in there really make all the difference in the world. They really do. You can be assured you get it lined up perfect. So when you're getting the glue on there, you're not fighting it, putting it in the clamp, trying to make sure everything is lined up. And here I try not to put on too much glue because you just don't need that much. A nice thin coating that you can still see through it is plenty. I use that silicone glue brush that I found at, I think it was Home Depot. And it really works well for that, for these small projects. And I'm just throwing it down on my clamp. See that amount of squeeze out? You want a little bit of squeeze out like that, but not just running all over the place. That means there was plenty of glue on there. Okay, so check it out. Came out pretty good. See that maple veneer we put in there? I think that's going to look awesome in there. When that red heart maple binding, when that double binding goes on there, I think that's going to look absolutely killer. Look how much thickness we have to carve too. So that's good. That maple binding is going to come up about 1/4 inch, and that's going to give us a 1/2 inch to carve, which for me, that's an enormous amount to carve. So I think that's going to be really cool. So I think that's it for this one. We got the chambers done. We've got some of our cavities cut out and routed out. We got it painted inside, and we got the top glued on. So I think we did pretty good. And we routed the edges too. I think we did pretty good. And you know, we removed an awful lot of wood from this thing. And if you've watched the rest of this series, you probably heard me before that this thing's going in the hot box because we've changed up all the tension of the grain in this thing by carving out that whole inside of this guitar, and it's going to need to go in there and do whatever other movement it's got to do. And I wanted to show you something too. I've got mine, now I checked this a second ago, and that thing is absolutely perfectly flat in all directions here and on both sides. I mean, it is dead on everywhere you go. Now you watch, I'm going to pull this out when we do the next video on this body, and I'm going to show you that that thing will have probably moved a little bit. And I still have about a 1/16 of an inch in thickness that I can still trim down to flatten it back off again. But the whole idea behind doing that is get this wood as stable as possible before we put it together as a guitar. Because we want this thing to last forever. We don't want it moving, changing the intonation and stuff like that. So we keep putting it back in a hot box, stabilizing every time we do it, and hopefully it'll help out in the long run. Anyway, I enjoyed the heck out of doing this. I hope y'all got something from it. I hope you come back and check out the next video, which is going to be on doing the scarf joint on the neck. But anyway, God bless y'all. Y'all have a wonderful week, and we'll catch you on the next one.